This episode of the Buffalonian Podcast is brought to you by the Buffalonian division of the Castsource Podcast Network, a podcast network built by Buffalonians for Buffalonians, featuring the Wings with Blue Cheese podcast and the Buffalonian Podcast, with more shows on the way very soon. Find these shows wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or simply visit our website posted in the episode description. Now, without further ado, let's get into the Bills, Sabres, hot takes, and more. The Buffalonian Podcast. All right. Let's go. Welcome back to the Buffalonian Podcast. I'm Joe Cali, solo today. Little different vibe going on here. You know, it's always interesting. Normally I'd be joined by none other than Dom Loss, but you know, we figured as much. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute since we've recorded a pod. There's just not been a lot going on, but it is training camp time, so figured might as well get something going. Hope you all have been well out there. You know, it's, as I said, it's been a little while, but the Buffalo Bills are back. They're back. They're playing at St. John Fisher. We're just that much closer to the start of football season, and it's absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. You would never have thought, looking back at, you know, the horrific loss in Cincinnati, that it would have come this quick. It came quick. Granted, the Sabres did better. They played a lot of good games, makes it go quicker, but since the Bills are back in training camp, I figured that it would be beneficial to maybe not do a full-on episode yet, because the Sabres there's not much going on, and the Bandits are done. They won their championship, so they're, you know, not much rundown material. And without Dom, there's just no point in doing the Past the Prime Hall of Fame when there's only one vote, or the Would You Rather, because who am I asking? Absolutely no one. So I figured it would be beneficial for everyone to just do a little training camp rundown before Dom and I are back for a full program next week, before we have the docket full for next week. So I think it's time to get into it. So we'll start out with the Bills, and then we will get into the other teams, because there have been, the day 2 has concluded as I'm recording this, and there have been many big storylines to come out of today, injuries being the headliner. Before that, though, let's just run through the Buffalo Bills in the first and second day of training camp. So, day 1, as you know, the media in the past month has had that burning question on what is going on with Stefon Diggs. Why was he absent? He finally addressed the media here, and I want to play a little bit of a clip here, just because he's kind of just, he addresses the conversation he had with McDermott, where McDermott came out and said he was so-called very concerned, even though he was the one who sent him home. So shed a little light on that. And here's the clip.
You know, Coach had came up and he said that he misspoke. Like, I don't know if anybody has a family here. Everybody has family issues. Everybody has family problems in the house. Like, I was here. I did have a conversation with Coach, you know, and I like to keep things in-house. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a player in this, I've been in the league. I'm going on my 9th year right now. You know what I'm saying? I got more football behind me than I do in front of me. My main focus and my only focus is winning.
Main focus and only focus is winning. And it's like a family affair. Anybody have a family out there? Yeah. I did not think this was a big deal when it first happened. A lot of people, because there wasn't a lot of news going on, jumped on it and ran with it, saying it was all because of, you know, he didn't perform well under Dorsey's system. Ken Dorsey was the problem. Josh Allen was the problem. Didn't get him the ball enough, so he threw a fit. When earlier in the press conference, you also hear him address, he was doing his fashion stuff. So it's a long off season. He probably needed a mental break after as I mentioned earlier, horrific loss in Cincinnati. And he just took a break and, you know, He was sent home after talking with McDermott. Probably got a little heated, I will say that. But it's all resolved now. He's there. He's practicing. He's with the fans. He and Josh on day 2, the highlights I've seen today have been absolutely locked down. Lockdown. Taron Johnson got iced on one of these throws, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I could because it's the Allen Diggs connection. But after so many people have been doubting Diggs and, the relationship he has with the team, it's Minnesota 2.0. He even addresses earlier in that press conference that nobody knows. He's never even addressed it. Minnesota's never even addressed it. People are just on the outside looking in. Nobody knows what happened in Minnesota. So to compare that to this is so, I don't know, unwarranted. I don't even know if that's the right word for it. Just, you not comparable. You can't really compare him because you don't know what happened with the first one. He's the only one who does, and Minnesota's the only one who does. Diggs likes to win. He said it at the end. He likes to win. And yeah, the Bills have won in the regular season, right? We've beaten the Chiefs in the regular season. That's just awesome. Good job. But we have not won in the postseason when we need to. We've come extremely close. When I say extremely, overtime, divisional round, that tough game against the Chiefs, we might not have beat the Bengals. We might not have. They have a really good football team, and we'll talk more about the Bengals in a few minutes here because Joe Burrow's on that quote unquote injury headliner for the day 2 of training camp. But I don't know. I don't. Diggs is back. He and Allen seem good. He called he said if Gabe Davis was not on the Bills, he would be a wide receiver 1. And I hope Gabe takes that confidence, especially going into his contract year, and runs with it. Because if we had if he could not replicate, because that was an ungodly performance he put on in that divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs. Ungodly performance. But if he could somehow, improve upon last season. He did have I believe an ankle injury or foot injury, something along those lines last season. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he really fell off. I mean, he still kind of did, but if he can improve, I think he'll earn a contract, especially, with the wide receivers we have. I think he's a solid number 2. I think he's great on the Bills, and Diggs even thinks he'd be a number 1, as I mentioned, off the Bills. So we'll have to see how that goes. But day 2 of training camp concluded earlier today for the Bills. They're looking good. Any highlights you've seen, they're not like the Patriots OTA or minicamp highlights where they're doctoring footage of Mac Jones throwing dimes where the ball changes direction clearly in midair. But the Bills look good. There's a good energy around the team, around the players, just the camaraderie you're seeing already. They're back where they need to be, and I think they have the winning mentality down. And I'm excited to watch the rest of training camp, talk with Dom next week about the coming days of training camp, what we've been seeing up until the return of the blue and red at Highmark Stadium. So that'll be a good one. I think that'll be interesting. Maybe they'll tease the red helmets again and actually mean it. There's Labatt just released the throwback tees. Their attempt at a Twisted Tea kind of competitor, but their throwback tees have a red Bills helmet on it. So they're marketing it, but I think that's more because people love the red helmets. A lot of people do. So I think that's just keep an empty can with the red helmet on your collectible shelf there. But there's been no talk about actually doing it, and Allen had one on last year, and it did not come through at all through the season. But no, it'll be interesting to see the rest of training camp. Looking forward to talking with Dom about that. But now let's go to the injury report for the rest of the rest of the teams in training camp. It's wild. I was not expecting to get all these notifications all of a sudden earlier today that Jalen Ramsey, cornerback for the Miami Dolphins, AFC East rival of the Buffalo Bills, could be out 6 to 8 weeks because of an ACL injury. But his ACL is intact. It's a knee injury, I should say. So, and before we go any further into that, just to address the Nyheim Hines injury, because it's been a while. We have not done that. So it's very unfortunate. I can't even imagine. I was riding a jet ski yesterday and just thinking about getting plowed into like that. I mean, I can't even imagine. You're getting ready. You're just relaxing before you go to training camp, before you start your job for the next few months. And your season is kaput because somebody can't drive a watercraft properly. So heart goes out to, and heart and thoughts go out to Nyheim Hines, and a hope for a speedy recovery, and would love to see him next season, because that's what it sounds like, I guess. That's what they're saying. But unfortunate accident that really, I was excited to see him fully integrated into the Bills system after a training camp and preseason, unlike last year where he kind of came in, and I mean, he still last year came in and had multiple kick returns in that game, the game after the Damar Hamlin game against the Patriots. So that he'll be missed, that's for sure. I was really hoping to see him in the system, but we'll have to wait a season, because that's what they're the reports are saying. They're saying that might be the 24 season before we see him suit up again in a Bills uniform. But anyway, back to the injury report from today, training camp. Jalen Ramsey, cornerback for the Miami Dolphins, has, unfortunately, he's got an ACL injury out, 6 to 8 weeks, knee injury. ACL is intact again, so that is good news for him. Good news for him. But very unfortunate starting training camp, and this is already happening. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's tough, because I feel for the fans. I really do. Even though I despise the Miami Dolphins with every ounce of my being, they're the rivals. How could you not? Like, I'm glad the rivalry's back, but I feel for the Miami fans, and they're excited they got Jalen Ramsey, a great cornerback. I mean, he's called Josh Allen trash, and then Josh Allen's shown him up every time they've played. But anyway, a good cornerback. And unfortunately is injured right in the beginning of the preseason. So it's, again, I think the only way to put it is unfortunate, but I feel for the Miami fans out there and, dealing with this. And also, big injury for the Cincinnati Bengals. Their quarterback, Joe Burrow, a calf injury, gets carted off the field. Both of them, I believe, did. I believe Jalen Ramsey got carted off as well. So Joe Burrow gets carted off the field today. Calf injury, almost thought to be an Achilles injury before it was confirmed that it was intact. I believe that's the last report I saw. Just they're saying calf injury. They're not they're generalizing it. They're not being specific. So when watching that footage, I don't know if you've seen it, but if you can search it up, because when he was running and then he started skipping like that, I'm thinking in my head immediately ACL, which is very scary because he's already had an ACL injury. So I think he ruled that out rather quickly. But luckily, he's not meant to miss very much time at this point, as far as we know. It's just a calf injury, calf sprain, I believe. And Aaron Rodgers has played on a calf sprain before. So I think they'll just work him up to getting ready to go for the season, and they'll have to see how that goes there. But yeah, heart goes out to Cincinnati. I really, even though last season they took us out of the playoffs in disgusting fashion, I feel for the Cincinnati fans after the whole Damar Hamlin game and the camaraderie that was shown between the fan bases, and to see if that happened to Josh Allen, I would be mortified. But luckily, Joe Burrow's just got a calf sprain, so I think he had a sleeve on it. I'm watching the footage again. Sorry, as I'm talking about this, but he had a sleeve on that calf, so maybe it was already tweaked. That's kind of my thought looking at it, because it was the one he had the black sleeve up. So, it very well could have been a pre-injury that just flared up all of a sudden, because he hopped. He knew what he was doing to get off of it, went right to the ground. So I think it could be a flare-up of a already constrained injury, so we'll have to see where that goes. Also, in more uplifting news, Brock Purdy is throwing again. I'm a big Brock Purdy fan. I love the Mr. Irrelevant storyline. I believe within 10 years there will be a movie titled Mr. Irrelevant. I don't know who will be playing Brock Purdy. It would have been absolutely already in pre-production if he ended up taking them to the Super Bowl and winning it, but unfortunately suffered that UCL tear. So unlike Josh Allen's UCL injury, sprain, I don't really know what to call Josh Allen's, but where he was playing the next week, but it clearly hindered him throughout the rest of the season pain-wise. But Purdy's snapped. It was detached. So he's throwing again. Quote-unquote looks better than ever. He says arm feels great. So I think that's an absolute win for San Francisco. Trey Lance is still on the team, so they'll have to duke it out, I guess, when it's a fair contest, but Lance might start the season if Purdy's struggling to rehab that elbow, because UCL tear, I mean, that's insane to come back from. Very difficult, just a like to an ACL tear. Like, it's lots of physical therapy, so we'll have to wait and see how Purdy does, but it's good to hear that he's throwing again. And yeah, I mean, we're lucky that didn't happen to Josh Allen. At the end of the day, he's throwing. He's looking great out there. He let it heal finally. He let the UCL fully heal, because, as I mentioned a couple seconds ago, that I do think it hindered him for the rest of the season. We saw those 3rd and 5s were throwing 25 yards, 30 yards. We're throwing deep balls, and we only needed 5 yards because I personally think the over the top, quick, snappy throws were an issue. They were an issue for him, pain-wise. So I think now we're going to see Josh Allen back to his original form, and yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. But well, again, this was a post day 2 of training camp recap, so little scraping the surface of what Dom and I are going to get into next week. We'll have a nice long episode recapping everything the Bills are doing. It's Brandon Beane's birthday too. Happy belated birthday. They got him a bean bucket hat, which is pretty fantastic, on the Bills' social media. So that, happy birthday, Brandon Beane. But yeah, so Dom and I will have a nice long episode for everyone next week, full of training camp talk. This was a little, I guess, introduction to that. Not too much, except those injuries after 2 days. It's nice to see the fans showing up. I mean, the training camp tickets for the Bills were sold out pretty much instantly, so it's nice to see the fans showing up to all training camps and spectating and getting back into it. We're getting close. We're getting really close, and it's getting really exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. I know you are. Dom is. We're looking forward to next week, bringing you a full episode of the Buffalonian podcast. Again, this is a quickie, if you will. So that is going to do it for this training camp recap, day 2 recap of the Buffalonian podcast. I'm Joe Cali, and I got to end this on my own. Look at this. So I'll leave you with a Go Bills.